Hello friend, my name is Asindra and today I'm going to continue playing for you The Sad Story of Emmeline Burns by Ebi-Hime. Now, last time we met Emily, and she brought us to this tombstone of Philip, Perdita, and Emmeline Burns. So since they all died in the same year, I'm assuming it was like a fire or the plague or something, and also Emily might be a ghost, who knows, but we haven't found out yet, and that is what, I guess we're gonna hear the story and see what happens, yeah? I mean, I want to know if she's a ghost. She could be a ghost. She does kind of act like somebody anachronistic, out of time. I think anachronistic is the wrong word. I might be using it wrong. Anyway, that's not the point. Let's continue with the story. Sorry. Also, I will try not to read as fast this time because apparently that is what I was doing last time, and it was not working. Anyway, I shift, suddenly uncomfortable. Graveyards don't usually make me uncomfortable. It's the world of the living that I can't stand. But there's something about this tombstone that strikes a discordant note within me, as though played on an untuned piano. They all died the same year. And they did indeed, and all on the same day too. I turn away from the grave, the final remnant of the unfortunate Burns family, and bite my lower lip. If they died in a fire, that's really ironic. It feels like something icy has ensnared my heart, slimy fingers dredged up from the bottom of a scum-speckled lake. When I next speak, my voice is barely a whisper, even quieter than that of the wind that shifts in the dead leaves about my feet. How do you know that? It's just a story. I already told you that. I suppose so, but when Emily said it, it didn't sound like a story. Instead, she sounded deadly serious. She looked serious, too. Her eyes are narrowed, her lips pursed, her face stark white as though carved from stone. The frog swirls above us. The fog swirls above us. About us. Okay, first off, frog and above. But that would still be interesting if there was a frog above you just, like, spinning around. Anyway, the fog swirls about us like a veil. I swear it's grown even thicker than it was earlier this morning. I can taste the fog at the back of my throat when I inhale and I cough. It tastes cold, rank, and repulsive. The taste of death. Just who is Emily anyway? She doesn't look like any girl I know. She doesn't act like any girl I know. I'm almost tempted to believe, but that would be ridiculous, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? So, should I tell you my story? I must warn you, it's rather dour. Then again, given our setting, what other kind of story could it be? You should already know how it ends, after all. Okay. Emmeline Burns, born in 1836 to Philip and Perdita Burns, led a charmed life. Her family was rather well-to-do, her grandfather being a lawyer and her father a banker, and she grew up in a large townhouse with 5 bedrooms on the outskirts of Barrowby. Given her father's profession, he was often away in London on business, but this did not upset Emmeline. She was old enough to understand that her father needed to work so they could afford her nice house and her fine clothes and the ribbons she wore in her hair, and so she did not complain. Though she did not see her father for months at a time, when he returned home it was always with a present for Emmeline, and a kiss on her cheek, and it was as though he had never been away at all. Philip was a kind man, though he may not have been a paragon of manly virtues. He's the runt of the litter. If he were a pig, we would have drowned him in the well, Grandmother Patience always griped. He was not naturally predisposed to the world of financing. He did have a good head on his shoulders, and was relatively intelligent. Not even Grandmother Patience could deny that. It was through his quick wits, rather than his magnetic charisma, of which he was sorely lacking, that Philip had been able to expand upon the Burns family fortune, as he had invested a good deal of their money into the stock market. Emmeline Burns really did love her father, despite his lack of presence in her life, or maybe because of it. They do say, after all, that absence makes the heart grow fonder. Even when Philip was not at home, Emmeline had a great deal to busy her day with, and she was never bored or lonely. She would help her mother with the embroidery, or she would exchange idle gossip with the servants, or she would go for long walks around the countryside, eating blackberries from the hedgerows and identifying the trees by their leaves. Emmeline's long-suffering governess, Helena Warren, certainly had her hands full when it came to disciplining her rowdy pupil. Though Emmeline was not unintelligent, she had been born with the disposition of a sea captain or a polar explorer, and she is physically incapable of remaining in one place for too long. That is, unless she was with Cornelia Linton. Emmeline and Cornelia had known one another since they were both young girls. They were almost inseparable. They spent most of their waking hours together, sitting by the lakeside in the Lintons' private estate. They would stare out across the untroubled water, which carried along with it lily pads, reeds, and fish with shimmering scales, and they would talk, sipping raspberry lemonade, and probably pretend to be pirates. Both Cornelia and Emmeline would wear pale colors during the summer, and they would pick at their long skirts in an attempt to cool themselves down, in a manner that would have appalled their mothers. Fortunately, their mothers never intruded upon them when they were at the lake. Everyone in Barrowby knew that the lake in the Lintons' estate belonged to Cornelia and Emmeline. They had claimed it through their countless hours they had whiled away by those grassy banks, feeding the fish and dipping their bare toes into the water, which made the two girls squeal. As such, it was their private land, a secret garden everyone knew of, but nobody was heartless enough to intrude upon. Aw, that's cute. So how is your embroidery coming along? Cornelia pouted, giving Emmeline a light shove in the shoulder. Oh, please, do not ask me about my embroidery. You know better than anybody how dreadful I am at it. I have no hand-eye coordination whatsoever. Emmeline giggled, returning Cornelia's shove with one of her own. I do not understand how you can be that terrible at sewing, Nellie. It's hardly a science. It may be simple for you, but it's not so for me. Engaging in any activity I have no talent for is incredibly disheartening, and I keep poking myself in the fingers with the sewing needle. Ooh, let me see. What? No. Cornelia's pout deepened, and she held her hands behind her back, attempting to hide them. Why do you wish to see my hands anyway? Do you want to gloat? Me? Gloat? I would never. I just wanted to see the wounds that you have been dealt to you. I just want to see the wounds that have been dealt to you despite your best efforts, my dear Cornelia, so I may applaud you for your bravery. Forgive me for being so cynical, but I suspect you may be making fun of me. Of course I will forgive you. You cannot help but be cynical, given your father fancies himself as a philosopher. It must run in your family. Indeed he does. Our library is full of Hegel and Kant, though I doubt he understands it. Mother says he just wants to show off at dinner parties like a peacock. How is he able to show off if he is unable to understand the material he speaks of? It is nothing more than bluster. Mother says pretense is one of the key traits a man must possess if he wishes to be successful in this world. That could be said of everyone, really. Fake it till you make it. My father is an earnest man. He could not lie if his life depended on it, especially not about philosophy. And that is why my mother worries for you, Emmeline. She has said as much before. She need not concern herself with my family. We may not be as rich as you, but what we lack in wealth we make up for with raw talent. Are you saying I'm not talented? I am saying it is somewhat sad that a 14-year-old girl such as yourself could not sew a single comforter. Hey! Cornelia, who had let her guard slip as she pondered her father's ill-fated attempts to ingratiate himself with the intelligentsia of the age, tried to obscure her hands behind her back once more, but it was already too late. What are you doing, Emily? I'm examining your hands as I said I would, and oh dear. Emmeline tutted and shook her head, her fingers linked with Cornelia's as lovers might. They are such beautiful hands, with such smooth skin, yet they are marked all over with red dots. It appears as though you have been used as a human pincushion. I already told you, Emmy, I have no skills when it comes to sewing. Why must you tease me so? I was not teasing you, I was honoring your efforts. That is a bald-faced lie, and we both know it. If you had any ounce of respect for me, you would not be smiling like that. Like what? Like that. Now let go of me. But Emmeline did not. Instead, she continued to stand there, her skirts fluttering about her legs, attempting to peer into Cornelia's grumpy little face with undisguised amusement. Emmy, I told you to let go. Why do you not heed my wishes? Because seeing you blush is so much fun, of course. Emmy! If Cornelia had the use of both of her hands, perhaps she would have hit Emmeline upside for the head for her insolence. As it was, she did not, given that she was restrained by Emmeline, and all she could do was glare. Glare and blush. Cornelia blushed a lot. That was one of the downsides of having such fair skin. That, and when she poked herself in the hand with a sewing needle, as she was so prone to doing, the red welts that resulted stood out starkly against her milky complexion. Why are you acting so coy, Cornelia? I know you enjoy my company, really. Be that as it may, you are behaving rather childish right now, and I have no desire to indulge your whims. Honestly? Honestly. Even if those whims are your own as well? Well... Cornelia let her head hang, her face turning just a shade darker. Certainly this was not the first time that the two girls had held hands. They had been friends ever since they were small, and they were not unfamiliar with the sensation of the other's skin. In fact, they were more well-versed with one another's bodies than one might have expected. Though their mothers would have scolded them for unladylike manner which they comported themselves when left alone by the lakeside, they would have been scandalized to learn of the other, more intimate actions that had been taking place between the two girls. It had only been a month or so ago, when, drunk on the lazy heat of the encroaching summer, the two girls had slowly, lackadaisically, shared their first kiss. Not a kiss on the cheek or the temple as they had done during their babyhood, but a true kiss typically shared between adults of the opposite sex. Neither of them knew who had instigated the kiss, or why they had lingered for so long in such a manner, their lips pressed together, but both agreed that after the fact that they had liked it. It had just felt right. As such, without giving these moments of intimacy too much thought, the two girls had continued to display their affection for one another in such a manner all throughout the summer of 1851. Such kisses and caresses might have been uncommon between two women, but what of it? Why should they not kiss one another if they wanted to? The lakeside was their own private haunt, their secret garden, and nothing could intrude upon them there, not even so-called common decency. That was another question. Why should it be indecent? Emmeline did not understand. She loved Cornelia, and Cornelia loved her. Was that not enough? Even if it was not enough for the rest of the world, it was more than enough for her. You know, you really are beautiful. Do you honestly think so? Of course, I thought so from the moment I was old enough to understand what beauty is. You are one of the loveliest people I have ever seen. Is that why you like me then? Because you think I'm pretty? Maybe. We human beings are fickle after all. Isn't your father proof enough of that? Ooh. How cruel, Emily. If you're only kissing me because you think I'm pretty, then maybe I should reevaluate the nature of our relationship. You are nothing more than a rake. You are even worse than that awful Wedgwood boy. You would compare me to Aubrey Wedgwood? My dear Cornelia, I am wounded. I am nothing at all like that boorish fop. Well, I wonder. He can be awfully insistent, too. It's not fitting for a young man. Of course it is not fitting. Did you know? He even deigned to take my hand during your mamma's garden party last week. Honestly? Indeed. I would have slapped him, Nellie, had his mother not happened upon us. Did she scold him? Lady Wedgwood? Of course not. Emmeline spat on the floor and did not even have the courtesy to wipe her mouth with a handkerchief afterwards. Under normal circumstances, Cornelia would have scolded Emmeline for her poor manners, but on this score she relented. Thinking about Aubrey Wedgwood often made her want to spit too. She dotes on that spoilt son of hers. Why, she probably believes him to be the second coming of Christ, though he flirts with every single woman in the village, old or young. You see, Nellie, I am nothing like Aubrey. I would rather die than become a rover like him. My feelings for you, my dear Cornelia, are molded from a different cast. You have captured my heart with your ephemeral beauty, and now mine eyes can wander no further. You are my sweetest red rose, newly sprung in June. Well, Cornelia flustered, Cornelia, flustered though she was by Emmeline's teasing, had enough wits about her to recognize that line. Such a literary reference would have been flown over her father's head like a bluebird, but Cornelia, despite only being 14, was probably more intelligent than he was. She must have inherited it from her mother, Beatrice Linton, who was a most formidable figure. Are you quoting poetry at me now, Emmy? Indeed. Did you know that my love is like the melody, sweetly played in tune? Don't be an idiot. If you wish to serenade me, you could at least write a poem of your own. I know you appreciate it, really, though. In all honesty, I think you are being rather foolish, Emmy. I cannot help myself, though. I really do love you, Cornelia. I love you so. Sometimes I fear I may go mad. What do you know of madness? I know when you are not by my side, I miss you horribly, and I find myself counting down the minutes, nay, the very seconds, until we may be in one another's company once more. I appreciate your feelings, Emmy. I love you too. If only Emmeline and Cornelia could have always spent their time together in so sweet a manner, smiling and laughing, or else bickering pointlessly and making one another pout, yet always parting with words of love and kisses stolen beneath the warm summer sun. Unfortunately, such moments cannot last forever. The splendors of summer soon faded, and the leaves began to turn brown, and the wind gained a sharp edge that made Emmeline shiver. It was also during the autumn months that Philip Burns returned home for the first time in half a year. This reunion, however, was not quite as happy as the previous ones had been. Philip Burns had always been a small man, yet he seemed even smaller during that bitingly cold September. He stooped more than usual when he entered rooms, if he entered them at all, for he had now developed a habit of lingering, ghost-like, about the thresholds of his own home, as though afraid to step inside. It was almost as though, during his 6-month sojourn in London, he had lost something crucial to his constitution, his sense of self, or else his soul. Though Philip's feet were still planted firmly upon the earth, he was divorced from the world around him. He drifted about aimlessly, like a sleepwalker, yet was restless within his dream world, incapable of sitting still for more than 5 minutes at a time. He looked at things without seeing them, ate food without tasting it, held objects without touching them. Once he tried to pick up his glass during dinner, and used so little force it slipped between his fingers, smashing it to pieces against the floor. Even when he spoke to Emmeline, it was without any real feeling in his voice, as though he were reciting words from a play script, and Philip Burns had never been a very good actor. He was not like Cornelia's father, who had so much huff and puff he could have blown down even the brick home built by the most industrious of the 3 little pigs. Philip Burns was far too honest, and that was the worst thing. It was because he was an honest man that Emmeline knew, though he tried to keep the truth from her. Something was wrong. Something was terribly, terribly wrong. But she did not know what. "Are you all right, Emmy?" Emmeline blinked, brushing a few strands of her hair out of her face, and turned to survey Cornelia. "Why do you ask me that? Was my face contorted in a curious manner?" "I suppose you could say that. You have been acting rather more despondent than usual, that is all." A cat-like smile crossed Emmeline's lips. She leant forwards until her nose was only inches apart from her companion's, and said in hushed tones, Are you worried about me, Nellie? I... I... I was worried about you, but I shall not worry any longer if you insist upon acting like that. Emmeline only giggled, unmoved by Cornelia's violent protestations. She was hardly strong enough to cause any lasting damage, and rearranged her hair. Seeing you blush always cheers me up, my dear Cornelia. So you admit you were feeling unhappy earlier? Just a touch. I cannot help myself. Not when father has been acting in such a peculiar manner. He shambles about the house like an animated corpse, like the misunderstood creature from Miss Shelley's novel. Mr. Shelley. What? Mr. Shelley? I thought the author of Frankenstein was Miss Shelley, not her husband. Oh, I am unsure of the details, Nellie. Both Mother and dear old Ellie say a woman could not have written such a twisted tale, and I am unsure of who to believe. In any event, it does not particularly matter. Probably not, no. Emily sighed, running a hand through her auburn curls. She soon found her bonnet rather got in the way of this gesture, so she untied the ribbon beneath her chin and removed the offending garment. She let the bonnet sit in her lap as a mother might with a newly born babe, and played with this light green ribbon, twisting it about the wrist of her right hand. The sensation of the soft, smooth material against her skin was comforting, like a caress. To be quite honest, I have been rather concerned about father as of late. Just this morning he missed a stair during his descent into the hallway and sprained his ankle. Could have broken his leg. But he did not? No, he did not. He does look rather undignified now, though, limping everywhere like an invalid. Oh, Emmy. Cornelia shook her head, her eyes heavy with concern. Emmeline shifted, still playing with the ribbon of her bonnet. The look on Cornelia's face was too somber for a playful forest sprite such as herself, and it unsettled her. She did not want to think about her father. She had retreated to the Lintons' estate, despite the protestations of Miss Warren. You have not finished with your history lesson, Emmeline. I doubt you could tell Queen Elizabeth apart from a hole in the ground, so she could avoid thoughts about her father. This was rather new for Emmeline. She had always loved being with her father. Now, however, she found herself seeking any recourse available to her in order to avoid him. Seeing him like this, so small and sad, shuffling about his home like a repentant sinner, was too painful. When you return home, would you give your father my regards? Mother is awfully concerned about him, and you too, Emmeline. Beatrice Linton would be concerned. She has always loved poking her nose into other people's business. She is not doing it because she enjoys idle gossip. You should know better than anyone that my mother deplores that kind of behavior. She believes it to be most unladylike. She cannot help but be worried, given what she has read in the papers lately. Your family has a great deal invested in the East Anglian railways, do they not? Don't talk to me about business, Nellie. I can't understand it at all. I'm sure you could if you tried. You have just been raised to believe that you should not bother. Gosh, you sound more and more like your mother every day. Emmeline exhaled, tightening the ribbon of her bonnet around her wrist so much it started to hurt. Though the material was soft, intended for wear by young women with silken skin who had never worked a day in their privileged little lives, it chafed when she wound it as such about her wrist. It was strange, Emmeline mused, how something so innocuous as a ribbon could cause harm when it was used with malicious intent. The world was a more dangerous place than she had ever truly given it credit for. Even the lake, which she often gazed upon with Cornelia, could be hiding some rather more sinister secrets. I apologize, Nellie. I didn't mean to snap at you. I have been rather highly strung as of late. It must be because of the atmosphere at home. Do not fret, Emmy. I understand. You do? Perhaps not entirely, but I will try to. I do care about you, after all. Thank you, Nellie. Shut up, phone. The two girls surveyed one another, both unusually shy, hesitant, and their faces lightly flushed. Then, with a tut, Cornelia leant forward, brushing the tip of her fingers against Emmeline's wrist. You should not do that. What? Fiddle with your bonnet like that. Because it is unbecoming of a lady? Because you are hurting yourself. Your poor hand has gone white. The blood cannot flow through your body properly if you impede it like that. And your hands, by contrast, still appear to be red, Nellie. Emmeline giggled in that easy, light-hearted manner of hers, and began to unwind the ribbon from about her wrist. Are you still yet to master the sacred art of the cross-stitch? That is neither here nor there. I am trying to comfort you, Emmeline. And you have been doing a wonderful job. Gazing upon your myriad of imperfections always cheers me. You are so cruel, Emmeline. Sometimes I feel like you do not truly love me. You just love toying me. Now, where did you get a silly idea like that? Emmeline smiled with a touch less sarcasm than before and leant forwards. Then, moving quickly, as a kittiwake might pluck a fish out of the water, she pressed a chaste kiss against the corner of Cornelia's lips. I love you more than ever, Nellie. Nothing could quell my feelings for you, not a raging storm or a howling wind. Cornelia pressed one hand against her cheek gingerly. The spot where Emmeline had kissed her tingled. It felt much like being poked with a sewing needle, a sensation Cornelia was depressingly familiar with, yet it was not unpleasant. Your blushes truly are beautiful, Cornelia. They would even outdo the roses in the very height of summer. It makes me wish I could kiss you every single second of the day, if it would always elicit such a lovely response. I do not think my heart would be able to cope with such a constant slew of affection. You would kill me, Emily. And what better way would there be to die than to be kissed fervently by a girl you loved? And with a light giggle, even breezier than that of coastal air, Emmeline pressed another kiss against the side of Cornelia's mouth. You know you should ask for permission before you do such things. I am not quite as hungry for affection as you are. So you say, but you did not offer much resistance. That sounds like something Aubrey would say. Never! You would not seek to compare me with that cur again, would you, Nellie? I am simply saying what I see. You claim you dislike Aubrey, but you grow more and more like him with every passing day. That is a lie. Libel, slander, take it back. No. Take it back, I said. I refuse. Well, I insist. If you wish for me to change my mind, you will have to insist harder than that. All right, then, how was this? And with a devilish glint in her eye, which would have been evidence enough in the 17th century England to try her as a witch, Emmeline shifted forward and began her merciless assault. Not even William of Normandy, as he drove back the armies of Harold Godwin during the Battle of Hastings, could have conceived of such brutality. Emmy, stop that! Cornelia kicked and squealed, pushed backwards against the ground by Emmeline's sudden siege, but it was to no avail. Emmeline had the element of surprise on her side, and she had taken a clear advantage. Cornelia blinked up at Emmeline, squirming like a hooked fish as Emmeline sat astride her, skirts rucking up her thighs, her fingers trailing lines across Cornelia's warm body, beneath her chin, under her arms, against her sides. Was there any war tactic more devilish, more devious than that of tickling? And this was not just any tickling, oh no, this was extreme tickling that would surely end in bloodshed. And we will find out if it actually does in the next episode. So thank you for watching. This has been fascinating. It's gonna end badly. This story is gonna end badly. I know it because Emmeline died, and it's gonna be sad because this is the sad story of Emmeline Burns. But yeah, thank you for watching. Look forward to the fallout, I imagine. I love you. Bye-bye.